Memories of St. Pat's Schoolmates. Okay. This might go on for a little bit. We'll see how it goes. Kindergarten. Miss McMiniman was a teacher who married and became Mrs. Ferguson. She was a nice teacher. I sort of remember. I remember the class. I was sitting next to Rebecca Joslin, and later on in year 11, Rebecca was in year 11. She went to Monera High year 11. I got into a bit of a tussle with a boyfriend sort of thing of hers, and she had it against me a bit. I got into a bit of an argument with Rebecca, and she was going to get a boyfriend onto me, which was someone from Monero. Not a St. Pat's boy, but Rebecca had a bit of a crush on me from memory. I seemed to think she had a bit of a crush on me from memory. I could be smoking something there, but she seemed to have a bit of a crush. But I sat next to her, I think, for a bit in kindy. I remember Rebecca. There was Virginia Power. She was. We had arguments later on about her. In I think it was high school. I accidentally brushed against one of her bags and snapped a cord or something, and she held it against me. But Virginia was there in kindy, and I remember not too many encounters, but I remember those things. I remember Lee Hain and probably Ricky Archer and maybe Pickens or Reese or Parsky or something in the room next to where we were in kindy, the other room in that lower section of the infant school. I remember we used to make paper airplanes and twist the front bit so that it'd fly better. And I remember they were mucking around at times. Lee Hain was probably from the Hain & Co. people, or the Hain family of Cooma. He was a bit of a roughneck. He used to steal my bag in high school. And like in Shannon Knowles' lift video, that was what was happening to me from Lee Hain. Bastard Hain. I went to Lee Hain's house once in high school when I borrowed my brother's Dungeons and Dragons games because they asked me to bring them along. And we never played it, we just sort of just goofed off. It was Lee Hain and some other blokes. Treated me okay that day. I remember it was once in primary school playing bargees, I think, or something like that, and I managed to tackle Lee Hain in a barge once. I was on the lesser team. They had all the tough players, but I managed to grab him once, and Lee Hain, I think Lee Hain was involved with us in the primary school pension of lollies from Woolworths. It was Lee Hain and me and some other boys. I think Pickens was involved, and Flanagan was involved, only briefly, and Hereford might have been, but it might not have been. I can't remember for sure. It was about 4 or 5 or 6 of us. I can't remember exactly who it was. Might not have been Jamie Hereford, it might have been. Jamie Hereford, of course, was another one. He was into Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath and Metallica. Liked heavy metal and later on in life, I suppose. And there was J.J. Dunstan, who used to hang with Jamie Pask, but he disappeared. I don't think he made it to high school, I don't think. Sort of disappeared from Cooma or something, I don't know. But it was Jamie Pask who was me and Mum and Dad. The family once visited the Pasks up in Cooma, I suppose west, for want of a better word. They had a house, a flat or a house or something up just beyond the Hain & Co. Centre. I remember I was visiting them once. Mum talking to the Pasks or something. I don't think I saw Jamie at that time, but I'm pretty sure that was the Pasks. And Jamie's mum, Mrs. Pask, danced with me briefly at the debutante in year 10. And or talked to me, talked to me or something. She spoke to me and something. I didn't dance with any girls at that time. Let me see. That the sort of vague memories of kindergarten. That's about it. Year 1 and 2, Sister Susan's classes. I remember I got in trouble on the playground talking at assembly, I think it was, and I had to. Sister Susan sent me down to the kindies to stay with the kindies. Except I didn't go there, and I told her I was in the lavatories, but I was actually under the lower schoolhouses underneath it, just hiding there. I was in the lavatory. I think I was in the lavatory, the underground toilets of the main infant school building briefly, but mostly just hiding under the school. And I was too embarrassed to go in with Kindy. I just was not going to do that. She asked me where. I remember later on. The following Monday. She asked me where I'd been, and I just told her, excused myself, but I was too embarrassed to go down there. I remember we once had it was my birthday, and we had these wafers, which I brought in from Mum, and everyone got one. I remember sneaking back in. Everyone in the class got one, including the teacher, and I think including the teacher, but I remember sneaking back in and taking an extra one, because there was a spare one left over, which I pinched. Naughty Daniel. I remember Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was a popular enough book at that time. I remember The Fate in infant school. It was a Disney book I wanted to win. I think I got it, or I didn't win it or something. Didn't get it. I wanted to win it, but didn't get it. I remember pinching money, of course, from Mum all the time. I remember pinching 5 20-cent pieces and spending it at school, and got told Mum, and she asked me where I'd got it. I said, I saved it. Pinched it. Naughty Daniel. Not much I remember. I got hit with a rock. A kid from Jacinta's class, a boy from Jacinta's class, can't remember who it was for sure, threw a rock at me in the playground at infants, and I went down. Mum came and got me, and I went home. Can't remember who that bastard was. Stroud rings a bell, but I don't know if it was Stroud. There's a Matthew Stroud, I think, in a higher class. I think it might have been this Justin Stroud or something, his younger brother. I can't remember. It might not have been the Strouds. I can't remember who it was for sure. Can't remember. Bastard. Kindergarten. Year 3 was at the primary school in the centre of town next to the high school, or up near the church. Mrs. Jones' class. I remember pulling on Zosha Petrosky's hair, because I fancied Zosha Petrosky. She played piano. She was Russian or something. Long hair, which was always in a ponytail. Very pretty. Slim and tall and pretty. And I'm not sure if I saw her much in high school. I can't recall. Mary Krepensek, who came along to... I've got photos of Mary Krepensek on the Glory Days video with Billy Hancock, who's in Jacinta's class. Mary Krepensek had a brother, Fred Krepensek, which the people called Cripple Dick. He was an athlete who... I remember him winning every event he was in at the school carnivals. He'd win everything. Superior athlete. I met Fred years later when studying at CIT in Reed in Canberra. Fred said hello. Oh, Fred Krippen's like, hi, Fred. Mary was a nice enough girl. She was at a telecom Christmas camp once. I think it was telecom in Buckandera, where we had telecom camps. Pretty sure that's where she came along, and Dad must have worked in telecom or something. And I think that was the occasion. We've got photos, so I'm pretty sure that's the occasion. I remember a poem I wrote in year 3 in Caroline Jones' class. I can't wait till Anzac Day. See the men in the parade. See the medals glisten away. I can't wait till Anzac Day. I can't wait till Anzac Day. Remember when days are bad. I can't wait till Anzac Day. See the roof put under the flag. I was hoping to win. Didn't. But before that, I had a poem which she said was pathetic. Well, not pathetic. What she said it was just wasn't good enough, so I had to do another one. It had a lot of yays in it for the Anzac Day. It was a pretty sad effort, but I put a better effort in. I remember standing in assembly. I remember, yeah. I got dacked once by a bloke in Bridges class or something. Pulled my pants down. I pulled them up pretty quickly. I think the button broke as well or something. I can't remember. On my pants. There was an arranged fight once with someone from around where I lived. The Moxon, Kenny Sagan, I think was, or a Moxon or something. I can't remember who it was, but the teacher, I was going to show up as well. I was actually going to fight him. I didn't fight very much. It wasn't very tough. But I was going to, but Mr. Mackey or something, I'm not sure it was Mr. Mackey. One of the teachers just said, no, Daniel. He heard about it and talked to me and said, you're not going to that. It was an arranged fight with Jamie Herford, and I showed up for that. But I just resisted him, just pushed him away. Decided that I shouldn't hook into Jamie because he was smaller than me, and I just thought, that's no good. That's probably would have been stronger than him, but didn't think it was the right thing to do, to pick on someone, like they say, pick on someone your own size, and just wouldn't do it. Ben Norton was one of the blokes. Don't remember much about Ben. There was Robert Stojanovic. I think we stayed at Robert Stojanovic's one night, some of the family, or we visited or something. The Stojanovic's. I think it might have been the Stojanovic's up in Cooma North. I think that was him. Not sure. Richard Rebel's family lived up in Cooma South, up in Bent Street, I think, and we'd visit them a bit. Richard had piercing green eyes, I think, and looked a little bit like Sonny from Skippy, just a bit. And he was bright enough academically. Simon Kenton, he was the dux of the class, our year. Very smart kid, like Ben Pointer was smart. Simon Kenton was son of the secretary of the high school, the receptionist of the high school, Mrs. Kenton. The secretary in primary school was Mrs. Young. I remember Mrs. Young. Yeah. I remember once Simon was at a meeting at the all-purpose room down at primary, and he was sitting on a lap all the time. I thought, grow up, Simon. He didn't care. Nicole Power, blonde, probably a cousin of Virginia's. Don't know exactly what's going on there. I don't think they were sisters. I think that she was probably a cousin or something, but I don't know for sure. We'd dance in high school. I remember she was willing to dance with me once. Okay, she made it smile to me and dance with me or something. She'd get into the Daly boy. Ricky Archer, the toughest, along with Lee Hayne and Sean Robinson. They were the toughest boys, and Pigsy would fight a bit. They'd fight all the time. Ricky seemed to be the ruler of the year. Seemed to be Ricky Archer, who was mainly the biggest gun, and Lee Hayne, I suppose, and Robinson. Ricky seemed to have the respect by the looks of it. That's my memories of it anyway. They called him Eric because of the football player I found out years later. I assume it was the football player Eric Archer, a rugby league player. And they used to call Ricky Eric, so I assume it was nicknaming him after Eric Archer, the rugby league player. I assume that's what it was. Michael White was in Matt's class. He sung as Joseph in Joseph the Musical, which I was one of the guards with Matt in, one of the guards of Pharaoh. He played Joseph. Had a career in music later on, and he's the uncle, I think, of my of Brett Love, my buddy Brett Love from Mental Health Group, whose mother's Sharon Love, who I think I met. who lived down in Conda, or Lang, somewhere down in Lang, I think it was in Conda, and when I was in the mental health group, Adrian used to drop Brett off all the time at his place, and Michael was his uncle. And, small world. We'd visited Michael's White House at least once. I think it might have been more than that. They lived in Berridale, the Whites, as well. Michael lived in Berridale. A little bit of a friend of Matt's for a bit. Tracy Corwell, redhead, with Linda Alexander. They'd play tennis together. Linda was shorter. Linda lived out in Numerella. Her brother got pecked or something by a magpie which killed him or something. She used to tell that story in class. Something like that. I can't remember exactly. Tracy was a redhead. Her hair was usually short. She was tall, and they'd play tennis. They were the tennis players, the girls in the class. Linda Alexander and Tracy Corwell. I used to joke later on in life, lesbians. Probably not though. Angela Whitted, Martin Whittett's sister. She was in our class. She was pretty. Sandy Scofield was pretty. Still is. You can see Sandy on Facebook. Older now. Nice, probably nice person like a Mother Ann who works in Vinnie's in Tuggeranong. Possibly still working there as well. Or Anne or Annette or something. Yvette, white hair, blonde white hair, very very attractive. She disappeared. She was there in primary, but don't remember in high school. Nicole Morgan, she seemed to disappear. She was there in infants and primary, but I'm not sure she was in high school. I can't remember in high school much. I think she might have gone. I'm not sure. Not sure. Don't recall seeing her much. Joseph Peake had a brother called Joel. He's Scuba Joe. He's apparently in Perth somewhere. I used to talk to him on Facebook a few years back, and I haven't been able to find his account again. But calls himself Scuba Joe, and he's a little bit of a buddy. In primary, I was on his campaign to be president of the school with a new name. He was calling himself Joe Campbell. They had different names for ones who were who got nominated to become school president, and they gave him pseudonyms, different names. He finished second, I think, in the end, and was vice president or something. I remember making a poster for him and putting it up in one of the places in the school grounds, and it got torn down. Bastards. Shouldn't have put it up. Should have wised up. He hassled Gareth down at the arcade in late 80s. Gareth Stewart, I think it was. Apparently he put a burning coin onto his hand or something. 20-cent piece onto his hand. I don't know if that's the exact story. I don't know if it's true. Just something I heard, I think. But I was usually a nice enough bloke. Obviously he was probably a bit of a devil as well. Apparently he's into Jedi these days or something. Not sure if he's Catholic anymore. Parsky, don't know what Parsky's doing these days. Paul Kruger, middle name Laird. He nicked my book in high school, Castle Rugner, I think it was, by Piers Anthony, which I think he nicked in economics class. Gave it back to me a few days later. I couldn't find it anywhere. I didn't know what had happened to it. Gave it back to me. Weird. Robert Hume, he was a bastard, was Hume. He had a hell of a go. A lot of them hassled me. He was hassled. Fat boy. I remember him in art school. Don't remember what it looks like, but I remember Robert Hume. Melinda Frader, Manfred's sister, she was in my class. Manfred was in Bridget's class. I had a fight with Manfred once. I won. I repented of all that afternoon walking home. I seriously repented of that. I'm not into brawling anymore. That was when I repented of brawling. Repented seriously. There wasn't much of a fight. Just a bit of fisticuffs. It was an arranged fight as well, just so that we'd box a bit. Wasn't much in it. There wasn't any aggro in it. I had a fight with David Cant once, which was an arranged fight. Cant, he was in my class, but I got a black eye or something. I told Mum that I'd run into a tree. No, it was Canty. Too strong for me. He's Gladstone Jack on Twitter. I think Gladstone Jack 1 or something like that on Twitter. So he follows me on Twitter, and I think I follow him back. Yeah. Lives down in Cooma still. Yeah, Adelaide.